God is good all the time. All the time, God is good. And in this psalm, 26 times, there's a celebration of the goodness of God with the phrase, "For his steadfast love endures forever." It might, at first glance, seem a bit tedious that the repetition is there at all. But sometimes there are lessons that we need to learn that can only be drummed into us by rote, by going over and over and over again. And this phrase, "For his steadfast love endures forever," appears 26 times, as if you really need to know this. You really need to know this. Now, a lot of the things in this psalm were celebrating the goodness of God in and of himself, in creation, in redemption from slavery in Egypt, and then bringing into the promised land. But there are shadows, and some of those shadows are long and they're deep, and they're not to be glossed over because God is still good. Give thanks to the Lord, for he is good. His steadfast love endures forever. Give thanks to the God of gods, for his steadfast love endures forever. Give thanks to the Lord of lords, for his steadfast love endures forever. Verse 4 turns to creation. To him alone who does great wonders. To him who by understanding made the heavens. To him who spread out the earth above the waters. To him who made the great lights. See, God is good in creation. What he made is good. It is very good, he said, as he looked at the creation. And then we read in verse 10, moving on to redemption. To him who struck down the firstborn of Egypt. There was 400 years of slavery that led to this point. It was a hard time for Israel, but God was good all the time that Israel was in bondage and at the moment that Moses was sent to deliver them. And deliver them he did. In the fullness of time, God performs everything, and in his good pleasure, out of his good heart, his good will, he does all things well. With a strong hand and an outstretched arm, he divided the Red Sea and brought the people in. And then it refers to, in verse 19, Sihon, king of the Amorites, and in verse 20, Og, king of Bashan. His steadfast love endures forever, by overthrowing Israel's enemies. So Israel had slavery, Israel had enemies, people who stood against them. Verse 23, it is he who has remembered us in our low estate. Now the goodness of God continues even when we're in a low estate. And it's not just Job who finds himself in dark days and difficult times. It can happen to anyone. We may one minute be on the crest of a wave and the next we may be reeling with things that happen that are unimaginable. But God is still good, and we need to make sure that we remember this. On the cross, as Jesus suffered, God was still good. The Father still loved the Son, even as he bore our sin and our pain. And when we experience the pain that's born of our sin and the disciplines that we experience in this present life, let's not allow that to cast a shadow over our faith or spoil our joy, because God is good all the time. He really is. Let's trust him. And if we can't do anything else, just keep repeating the psalm and let it be true for you. For his steadfast love endures forever.